A soft clatter broke the silence of the mansion's kitchen, porcelain trembling against stainless steel. Moonlight spilled in through the tall windows, washing everything in a pale, bluish glow. And there, half hidden behind towering stacks of dishes, stood a girl no older than 13. Her sleeves were rolled past her elbows, her thin arms trembling from exhaustion. It was 3 a.m. Her eyes, glassy, red, fighting sleep, blinked slowly, as if each blink cost her strength she no longer had. Outside, the city was asleep. Inside, a child was drowning in work meant for 3 grown adults. And upstairs, unaware of any of this, the billionaire slept. Before we go deeper, tell me, where in the world are you watching from right now? It always amazes me how stories like this travel beyond walls, borders, even oceans. Drop your city below. Let's see how far compassion can reach tonight. Ethan Hale wasn't the kind of man who woke up easily. Years of boardrooms, late-night flights, and endless negotiations had taught him to sleep like someone making up for every minute lost. So when his eyes shot open that night, heart racing for no reason he could name, it startled him. He sat up, listening. The house was usually silent at this hour. His staff worked daytime shifts. He'd made that rule himself. No noise, no movement, no interruptions after midnight. But the sound came again. Clink, a soft splash, something like a plate slipping through trembling fingers. He frowned, swung his legs off the bed, and stood. The wooden floor felt cold. Maybe it was a raccoon in the trash outside. Maybe he imagined it. But something in his gut told him otherwise, something he hadn't felt in years. Instinct. Concern. He descended the stairs quietly, the kind of quiet that came naturally to someone used to walking into boardrooms where silence meant power. But silence felt wrong. Too heavy. Too tense. As he approached the kitchen, a small voice floated through the air. Fragile, cracked, like someone whispering to themselves just to stay awake. Just 2 more pans. Then I can rest. I can rest. Ethan froze. That wasn't a raccoon. That wasn't a staff member either. He stepped closer, and when the girl finally sensed him, her reaction wasn't what he expected. She didn't cry out, didn't jump, didn't run. She simply flinched, lowered her head, and apologized. So fast, so rehearsed it sounded like something she'd said hundreds of times before. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. I'm finishing. Please don't wake Mom. She didn't know I got up. Her voice trembled on the word, Mom, and Ethan's chest tightened in a way he couldn't explain. Because her mother was his maid. A new hire. A quiet woman named Rosa. He knew she came alone, with no husband mentioned in her application. He knew she kept her head down, worked hard, spoke softly. But he didn't know she had a child. He stepped forward slowly. What are you doing here at this hour? The girl swallowed. Her hands didn't stop scrubbing. My mom. She fell asleep before finishing the kitchen. I didn't want her to get in trouble. There was something too familiar about her tone. Not the words, the weight behind them. The fear of consequences from people who had never even threatened her. Ethan glanced around the kitchen. None of this was her mess. The sink was full from dinner he hadn't even attended. The counters were cluttered with pans from his chef's prep. What meant for a team, dumped on one exhausted mother. Where's your mother now? He asked gently. Asleep. She had a long day. She always does. The girl's voice cracked. I don't want anyone to yell at her. She needs this job. A drop of soapy water slid down her arm, paused at her elbow, then fell to the floor. Ethan's jaw tightened, not in anger at her, but at the realization of how blind he'd been. He owned a home full of people, yet he knew none of their stories, none of their burdens, none of their sacrifices. He glanced at her school uniform draped over a chair, damp, partly hand-washed, like she tried to scrub it earlier. Why aren't you asleep? He asked. She hesitated. Her eyes darted to the floor. I had homework, but I didn't finish it. I missed school today. Her voice grew smaller. And I think I might miss tomorrow too. Why? Ethan asked. Are you sick? She shook her head. I can't go. Not until everything here is done. Mom's too tired these days. Someone has to help. Her words shouldn't have belonged to a 13-year-old. They belonged to someone carrying the weight of a house, a job, and a life too heavy for her shoulders. Ethan felt something unfamiliar rise inside him. Something hot, tight, unsettling. Guilt. He took a slow breath, steadying his voice. "What's your name?" "Leah," she whispered. Her hands finally paused, and in that moment, seeing her small frame trembling under the weight of exhaustion, Ethan knew something deeper was happening here. Something Rosa had been hiding, something he had never taken the time to ask. If you were standing in that kitchen with him right now, what would you do? Be honest. Tell me in the comments. And if you can't put it into words, just hit like to show that kindness should never come this late in the night. Leah swayed on her feet, as if her body had reached its limit. Ethan moved quickly, grabbing a stool and guiding her toward it. "Sit," he said softly. "But." "No but. Sit." She obeyed, too tired to argue. Her eyes fluttered, heavy with sleep. As he watched her struggle to stay awake, his mind raced. Why was a child working at 3 a.m.? Why was she afraid to be seen? And why? Why did Rosa never mention any of this? He looked at her again, her small hands cracked from detergent, her school bag sticking out of a worn backpack, the quiet bravery in her voice. Something wasn't adding up, and he was determined to find out what. He took a breath, stepped closer, and gently asked the question that would begin unraveling everything. "Leah, why exactly did you miss school today?" She looked up, eyes filled with a truth she had been carrying alone for far too long, and finally opened her mouth to speak. Leah's lips trembled before any sound came out, as if the words themselves were too heavy to release. Ethan crouched down so he was at her eye level, his expression calm, patient. The kitchen hum of the refrigerator filled the silence, underscoring the weight of her answer. "I missed school because," she swallowed hard. "Because Mom didn't come home last night." Ethan's brows tightened. "Didn't come home? Where was she?" "I don't know." Leah looked down at her feet. "She left for work yesterday morning and didn't come back until late today. She was so tired she couldn't even stand right. She just went straight to bed. She didn't even see me washing dishes." Ethan's heartbeat quickened, not from alarm, but from the realization of how deeply the woman had been struggling under his roof without a single person noticing. His staff never worked night shifts. That wasn't optional. But Rosa had. "Has she been missing nights often?" he asked. Leah hesitated. "Sometimes, when she gets extra work somewhere else." So Rosa was working 2 jobs, maybe 3, and still barely standing. He exhaled slowly, steadying the spark of anger, not at her, not even at the circumstances, but at himself for being so distant from the people who kept his world running. He looked at Leah's small hands again. "And you've been filling in for her?" She nodded. "If she doesn't finish everything here, they say she gets warnings. I don't want her to lose this job." "Warnings?" Ethan's jaw tightened. His policies didn't include such cruelty. But supervisors, some acted on their own pride. He inhaled deeply, the kitchen feeling colder now. "Leah," he said, slow and steady, "thank you for telling me." Her chin wobbled, like she hadn't expected kindness, like she didn't know what to do with it. Ethan took one of the plates from the sink and rolled up his sleeves. "I'll help you finish this." She blinked. "You, what?" "No, sir, you can't." He gently cut her off with a raised hand. "Yes, I can. And I will." Her breath hitched, and for the first time that night, a glimmer of relief flickered in her eyes. If you were there in that moment, what would you have done? Be honest. Comment your answer below. And if words fail you, just tap like to show that compassion shouldn't need permission. Leah watched him wash the plate with shaky astonishment, almost as if the sight didn't fit inside her understanding of how the world worked. "My teachers always say rich people never touch their own dishes," she whispered. Ethan smirked softly. "Your teachers have clearly never met me." A tiny laugh escaped her, brief, featherlight, but real. As they washed the remaining dishes together, Ethan kept glancing at her, how her hands moved slower now, how exhaustion kept pulling her eyelids down. She was too tired to pretend anymore, too worn out to act like everything was okay. "Leah," he said gently. Tell me what really happened today. Why didn't you go to school? She drew in a shaky breath, hugging her arms. I tried, she whispered. But my uniform wasn't dry yet. I washed it in the bathroom sink last night, but when Mom didn't come home, I had to finish cleaning the house so she wouldn't get fired. And then, I overslept. Her voice broke at the end. And when I woke up, school had already started. The feeling that surged through Ethan was sharp and unfamiliar, a mix of sorrow, anger, and something protective he couldn't explain. How often do you wash your own uniform? He asked quietly. Every night, she said. We only have one. Mom says we'll get another when she saves enough. Ethan's throat tightened. This wasn't hard times. This was survival. He rinsed the last dish slowly, then turned off the faucet. The kitchen fell silent once more, except for Leah's soft, uneven breathing. She was staring at her hands again, red from scrubbing, wet, trembling. You're a strong kid, he murmured. But none of this should be your burden. Her eyes lifted, glassy with a mixture of confusion and longing. I just want Mom to be okay. He nodded, his voice gentler than he had ever heard it come out of himself. We'll make sure she is. Her eyes widened. Really? Yes, really. She exhaled shakily, relief flooding through her small frame. She trusted him. She didn't say it, but he felt it, and that trust burned like a responsibility he should have carried sooner. As he started wiping down the counter, Leah spoke again, her voice faint. So, can I ask something? Anything. Please don't fire her. She's trying so hard. She cries some nights because she thinks she's failing. Her words felt like a blade sliding beneath his ribs. I'm not firing her, he said firmly. I promise you. She nodded, her shoulders dropping as if the weight she carried finally loosened. But Ethan wasn't finished. His mind was already racing through everything he needed to fix. Her mother's hours, her supervisors, the missing nights, the uniform, the exhaustion, the fee. He needed answers, protection, change, and he needed them now. Leah, he said gently, where does your mom work when she isn't here? Her breath caught, and for the first time, fear, real fear, flashed in her eyes. Please, she whispered, shaking her head. Don't make me say it. Ethan leaned closer, voice soft but steady. Why not? She looked at him, tears finally breaking free. Because if I tell you, everything will get worse. Her shoulders trembled as she covered her face with her hands, a quiet sob escaping. And in that moment, Ethan knew he hadn't just stumbled into a child washing dishes at 3 a.m. He had stepped into a life that had been unraveling long before he arrived. And now, the truth was coming for him, piece by fragile piece. Ethan didn't move at first. He simply watched Leah shake as she hid her face, her small body folding in on itself like she was trying to disappear. A child shouldn't cry like that. Not from fear, not from secrets. He reached out slowly, careful not to startle her. Leah, hey, look at me. She hesitated, then lowered her hands. Her eyes were red, lashes wet, cheeks streaked with tears she'd been holding back for far too long. Nothing you tell me will make things worse, he said softly. I'm here to help you and your mom, but I can only help if I understand what's happening. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then stared at the floor like the truth lived somewhere in the tiles. Her fingers kept twisting the hem of her shirt, nervous, frightened, unsure. My mom, Leah's voice cracked. She works somewhere else at night. Somewhere she doesn't want anyone to know about. Ethan's mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. Does she work another cleaning job? He guessed gently. Leah shook her head. Is it a restaurant? A factory? A hotel? Another shake, this time quicker, like the guesses scared her more. Ethan exhaled slowly. Leah, is someone hurting her? Her breath hitched. She didn't answer, and silence was an answer. Ethan felt a deep, cold heaviness settle under his ribs. He moved closer, keeping his voice calm, steady, reassuring. Your mother is safe here, he murmured. No one will hurt her, and no one will punish her for whatever she's trying to hide. You have my word. Leah's lips trembled again. You don't understand. If people find out, she'll lose everything. And if I don't find out, he said gently, I can't protect either of you. Her shoulders slumped. She wiped her eyes, sniffed softly, then whispered. She cleans a nightclub. The kind with loud music and drunk people and men who shout at her if she's too slow. Ethan felt heat rise up his neck. A nightclub. At night. Alone. With men yelling at her. While her daughter washed dishes until sunrise. His hands curled into fists. Does she work there every night? Almost, Leah whispered. She comes home so tired she can't walk straight. Last week she fainted in the bathroom. Ethan's stomach dropped, and she didn't tell anyone, not even me. No, Leah shook her head. She said if she asks for help, people will think she's weak. And then they'll pick someone stronger. Someone younger. Someone who won't complain. Ethan felt the kind of rage that didn't explode. It sank slow and sharp, settling like stone in his chest. No one should live like that, he said quietly. Leah's voice softened into something heartbreakingly genuine. She says it's the only way to keep us alive. Ethan stared at her, this tiny girl who had been carrying the weight of survival on her shoulders while the world slept. And suddenly, the mansion around him felt wrong. Too bright, too large, too untouched by reality. He cleared his throat. Leah, has anyone ever helped you and your mom? She hesitated, then whispered, no. He felt his heart clench. Have you ever had someone step in when you were drowning, even if it was just for a moment? Right, yes. And tell me their name. Sometimes gratitude deserves to be spoken aloud. Leah's breathing steadied a little, though her eyes still glistened. Ethan pulled a chair closer and sat beside her, lowering his voice to something warm, something steady. How long has this been going on? A few months, she said. Ever since Mom lost her old job. She said this house job wasn't enough. So she took the nightclub one too. She comes home at 1 a.m. Sometimes 2. Sometimes later. And she leaves again before I wake up. Ethan felt his jaw tighten. He had never asked about her previous job. Never checked in. Never looked beyond the papers she signed. Where do you sleep? He asked gently. Leah blinked, confused. What do you mean? Hey, he clarified. When your mother is working late. Where do you stay? Oh. She looked down again. In the laundry room. Mom says it's safer. She makes me lock the door and keep the lights off so no one knows I'm here. His chest tightened again. The laundry room? A child sleeping on cold tiles with the lights off. He took a slow breath to steady himself. You're not sleeping there again, he said firmly. Leah's head snapped up, alarmed. Please don't make her get in trouble. No one is in trouble. His voice was gentle but final. You'll sleep in a real room, with a real bed, and your mother will approve, I promise. Leah's lips parted in disbelief. But we're not allowed in the guest rooms. You are now, he said simply. Her eyes filled again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was something softer, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Just then, her small stomach growled, loud enough to break the tension. Leah flushed with embarrassment and hunched her shoulders. When was the last time you ate? He asked quietly. She whispered, yesterday morning. I think. He closed his eyes briefly, the ache in his chest deepening. Stay here, he said gently. I'm going to make you something. You'll cook? She asked, surprised. He smiled faintly. I'm not completely useless. He opened the fridge, searching for something simple, warm, comforting, something a child shouldn't have to ask for. His hands trembled slightly, not from uncertainty, but from the overwhelming truth settling on him. He had built a life so large that he hadn't realized he was drowning at the edges of it. As he cracked eggs into a pan, Leah watched him with tired, grateful eyes. So, she whispered softly. Yes. Thank you for not yelling. For listening. He turned slightly, meeting her gaze with a warmth he didn't expect to feel tonight. I should have listened sooner. She gave a small, exhausted smile, the kind that carried more pain than joy. But it was something. Ethan slid the pan onto the stove, the quiet sizzle filling the kitchen. Eat first, he said. Then rest. Leah nodded, her shoulders finally loosening as the tension drained from her body. But just as Ethan plated the food, her eyes drifted toward the staircase, toward the hallway where her mother slept. And her voice trembled again. "There's something else, something I didn't tell you yet." She swallowed hard. "It's about Mom. The real reason she took the nightclub job." Ethan turned toward her slowly, and in her next breath, the truth began to surface. Ethan set the warm plate in front of Leah, but she didn't reach for it. Her fingers were pressed together, knuckles pale, eyes fixed on the staircase like a shadow waited there. "What is it, Leah?" he asked gently. Her voice came out small. "The nightclub isn't the only reason she works there." Ethan pulled out a chair and sat across from her, his posture deliberately calm. "Take your time." Leah nodded, wiped her eyes, and tried to steady her breathing. The overhead light flickered softly, casting faint shadows across her face. She looked too young to know this kind of fear. "Mom says she needs extra money," she whispered. "But she's not saving it for bills. Not for food. Not even for me." "Then what is it for?" Ethan asked quietly. Leah's eyes lifted, and the heartbreak there made him brace himself. "For my dad." The word dad was nothing soft in her voice. Nothing safe. It fell from her lips like a bruise turning purple. Ethan felt something shift under his ribs. "I thought you said he wasn't around." "He isn't," she whispered. "But he comes back whenever he runs out of money. He always finds us." A chill traced Ethan's spine. Leah swallowed again. "He's not a good person, sir. Mom tries to keep him away, but he always knows where we live. And when he shows up," her voice cracked, "Mom gives him money so he won't hurt us." The air in the kitchen shifted, heavier, darker. Ethan leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "Has he ever hurt you?" Leah hesitated. Then she nodded, just once, but enough to make Ethan's jaw clench. He steadied his breathing before he spoke again. "And your mother works nights to pay him." "She doesn't want me to know," Leah said, wiping her tears with her sleeve. "But I see her hide the money in a little box. And every time he comes, she takes more out. Sometimes, there isn't enough. So she works more." Ethan's hands tightened around the edge of the table. This wasn't struggling. This was being hunted. "How often does he come?" he asked. "Every few weeks," she whispered. "Sometimes more. Mom said it's dangerous when he drinks. And he drinks a lot." He waited for her to finish, but her voice faded, replaced by trembling breaths. To distract her, he gently pushed the plate toward her again. "Eat, Leah." She nodded weakly and picked up the fork, taking slow, tiny bites as if she didn't want to waste any of it. Watching her eat so carefully, like food was a luxury, made Ethan look away for a moment, jaw tightening against emotions he wasn't used to feeling. As she ate, he spoke softly. "You and your mom won't be dealing with him alone anymore." Her fork paused midair. "But you don't even know him." "I don't need to," he said firmly. "I know enough." She lowered her gaze again. "Mom says we can't go to the police. He gets angry, and he knows people who do bad things. She says we have to stay invisible." Ethan exhaled slowly. Invisible. Hidden. Terrified. All this, under his roof. He watched her take another bite, but her hands shook with exhaustion now that the adrenaline had faded. "After you eat, you'll sleep," he murmured. She nodded faintly. "And tomorrow morning," he continued, "I'll talk to your mother. She won't get in trouble. Neither will you." Leah tried to smile, but it faltered. "Thank you." Ethan stood slowly and moved to refill her water glass. As he did, he caught his reflection in the window, a man used to controlling empires, yet unaware of the suffering happening under his own chandelier lights. A strange guilt gnawed at him. Leah's voice broke the silence again, softer this time. "Do rich people ever have problems like this?" He turned toward her, the question slicing deeper than she knew. "Yes," he said truthfully. "But most of us are too busy or too proud to admit it." She studied him for a moment, as if seeing him clearer. "Then why are you helping us?" she whispered. His answer came without hesitation. "Because you deserve safety, and because your mother should never have to face this alone." Leah set her fork down, eyes filling again, but these tears were different. Softer, warmer. "So, she whispered. Can I tell you something else? He nodded. Mom keeps saying the world doesn't care about people like us. Ethan knelt beside her stool, meeting her eye level. The world might not, he said gently, but I do. Her breath shuddered. Then she put her tiny hand over his, just for a second, but it was enough to make Ethan feel the weight of her trust settle heavy and real in his chest. And in that moment, as he saw her courage, her fear, her gratitude, something inside him softened. Something he didn't know was still alive. Now it's your turn. Share one small good thing you did recently. Write it below so others remember that humanity still lives. Your story might light someone's path tonight. Leah yawned suddenly, covering her mouth with her sleeve. Her shoulders drooped, her eyelids heavy. You're exhausted, he murmured. Come on, let's get you to a proper room. She nodded, too tired to argue. Ethan led her slowly down the hall, past the guest wing he'd never once considered opening to anyone outside his circle. He chose the room closest to his own, somewhere safe, somewhere warm, and switched on the bedside lamp. Soft light filled the room, revealing a plush bed, fresh sheets, warm blankets. Leah froze in the doorway. For me? She whispered. For tonight, he said gently, and as many nights as you need. Her eyes welled again. He set her backpack on the chair, pulled back the blankets, and helped her climb in. She curled instantly, relief breaking across her small face like sunlight piercing a storm. So, she murmured, eyes half closed. Yes. Please don't tell Mom I cried. He gave a small smile. Your secret is safe. Within moments, she drifted off, soft breaths, peaceful at last. Ethan stood there a long time, watching the rise and fall of her chest. The night had gone quiet again, but nothing in his world felt the same. He turned off the lamp, stepped into the hallway, and nearly collided with Rosa, Leah's mother, standing there in the shadows, eyes wide, breath trembling, as if she had been listening the whole time. Rosa stood frozen in the dim hallway, her hands clasped against her chest, still wearing the faded uniform she had collapsed in hours earlier. Her eyes were swollen, not from sleep, but from tears that had dried long before Ethan ever came downstairs. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The house felt heavy around them, as if it too understood the weight of what had just unraveled. Rosa, Ethan began softly, but she shook her head, breath choking in her throat. I can't explain, she whispered, voice trembling. Please don't fire me. Please, she didn't mean to get in your way. She just... Ethan lifted a hand gently. I'm not firing you. Her face crumpled instantly, knees almost buckling at the words. She gripped the wall for support. I heard her, she whispered. I heard everything she told you. She looked toward the room where Leah slept, her expression a mixture of shame and love, of guilt and fierce protectiveness. The kind only a mother worn down by life could know. I tried so hard, she said, her voice breaking. I tried to keep her out of this. I tried to make sure she never carried my burdens. But she's too smart, too kind. She sees everything. Ethan stepped closer. You should have told me, Rosa. She swallowed, shaking her head again. You're my employer. I clean your floors. I don't burden you with my life. You think I wouldn't care? You're rich, she whispered, as if that explained everything. People like you don't look at people like us. The hallway light flickered, casting soft shadows over her tired face. And in that moment, Ethan realized something painful, something that cut deeper than he expected. She truly believed she deserved none of the compassion she gave so freely to others. Rosa, he said gently, tell me the truth. All of it. She took a shaky breath, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, and finally nodded. My husband started drinking after Leah was born, she whispered. My fault, he said. Everything was my fault. When he lost his job, it got worse. When he hit me the first time, I thought I deserved it. Ethan's chest tightened, anger simmering under his calm exterior. I left him when Leah was 8. It was the only brave thing I ever did. But he found us. Again and again. He always finds us. Her voice cracked hard, like something inside her finally broke open. I'm not scared of him hurting me, she said. But Leah, I won't let him lay a finger on her. So I pay him. I work until my hands bleed. And every month he comes back for more. She looked up at Ethan, tears falling freely now. I'm so tired, sir. I'm so tired. I can't breathe sometimes. And every night I tell myself I'll stop. I'll run. I'll fight. But I don't have the strength anymore. Her knees finally gave out. Ethan reached forward instinctively, catching her before she hit the floor. She collapsed into his arms, sobbing silently, years of fear, shame, and exhaustion pouring out in trembling waves. He held her until her breathing steadied, until her grip on his arm loosened and she managed to meet his gaze again. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry you had to see all this. You shouldn't apologize for surviving, he said softly. Rosa covered her face with both hands, shaking. I'm losing her, she whispered. I can see it. The light in her eyes. She works so hard to pretend she's okay. But she's a child. She shouldn't be washing dishes at 3 a.m. She shouldn't be scared of every knock on the door. I'm failing her, sir. I'm failing my own daughter. You're not failing her, Ethan said gently. You're fighting for her in ways she'll understand when she's older. Rosa's voice dropped to a whisper. Do you really think so? Before he could answer, emotion surged unexpectedly inside her, and she stepped back, covering her trembling lips. If that moment hit you hard, leave a red heart hash. Sometimes a small symbol says what words can't. Rosa leaned against the wall, trying to regain control of her breathing. I didn't want her to tell you, she whispered. Not because I don't trust you, but because I've learned that the moment people see how messy your life is, they walk away. Ethan shook his head slowly. Not this time. She stared at him for a long moment, searching his expression for any hint of pity or judgment. Instead, she found something unexpected, something steady and grounding. Sincerity. Real, human sincerity. What are you going to do? She asked finally, wiping her cheeks. First, he said softly, I'm going to make sure you and Leah are safe. Her breath hitched. And then, he continued, we're going to deal with him. Rosa froze, fear flickering in her eyes. You don't know what he's capable of. And you don't know what I'm capable of when someone hurts the people under my roof. She stayed at him, stunned. Ethan's tone softened. You're not alone anymore, Rosa. Her lower lip trembled. I don't know how to accept help. That's okay, he said gently. Just don't run from it. She closed her eyes, silently wrestling with years of survival instincts that told her help always came with a price. Finally, she whispered, I'll try. That's enough, he said. For the first time in a long time, Rosa looked like she was breathing instead of drowning. And just as she opened her mouth to speak again, a sharp, unexpected knock echoed through the quiet house. 3 loud bangs. Hard, impatient, violent. Rosa's face drained of color. No, she whispered, shaking her head. Not now. Not here. Ethan's jaw tightened as he turned toward the front door. The night was far from over. The knocks echoed again, louder this time, vibrating through the hallway walls like a threat wrapped in wooden metal. Rosa staggered backward, her hand flying to her mouth. She shook her head violently, whispering, No, no, he can't be here. Not tonight. Please, God, not tonight. Ethan stepped instinctively in front of her, his body forming a shield. The calm man who had gently tucked a child into bed moments ago now shifted into someone else, someone colder, sharper, dangerous in a controlled way. Is it him? Ethan asked quietly. Rosa didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her trembling was answer enough. Another set of banging fists rattled the front door. Rosa, I know you're in there. Open the damn door. The voice was rough, slurred, simmering with rage. And Leah was asleep only 20 feet away. Ethan felt something primal ignite inside him. He whispered to Rosa, Go to the guest room. Stay with your daughter. Lock the door. She shook her head. No, he'll break the door down if I don't open. Not tonight, Ethan said firmly. You're not opening anything. But, go, he repeated, his voice a low command he rarely used. But tonight, necessity sharpened it. After a moment's hesitation, Rosa backed away, her breath shaky as she darted toward the guest room. Ethan waited until he heard the lock click softly behind her. Then another voice roared from outside. "Rosa, don't make me come in there." Ethan walked calmly toward the door, but his fists were clenched, adrenaline humming under his skin. Every instinct told him this man wasn't just loud, he was dangerous. He unlocked the door and opened it. A man stumbled forward, catching himself on the frame. His clothes were dirty, hair unwashed, eyes wild. The stench of alcohol rolled off him like a cloud. "You're not Rosa," the man spat, squinting. "Who the hell are you?" Ethan didn't blink. "I'm the man whose house you decided to pound on at 3 in the morning." The intruder smirked drunkenly. "So you're the fancy boss, huh? The one she works for. Perfect." He wiped his mouth on his sleeve. "Where is she? I need to talk to her." Ethan didn't move. "She's not available." The man stepped forward, but Ethan's presence didn't allow him to get far. "That wasn't a question," the intruder growled. "Where is she?" Ethan stared at him steadily. "Gone." The man let out a short, mocking laugh. "Gone? Come on, rich boy. Don't play dumb. She lives in fear of me. She'd never just go anywhere." Ethan's jaw flexed. "You sound proud of that." He grinned, the kind of grin people wore when they knew they could hurt without consequences. Fear keeps people in line. Worked for her. Works for most. Ethan felt something dark stir inside him. He stepped closer. "You should leave," he said, voice low, steady. "Right now." The man scoffed. "Or what? You'll throw your money at me? You think dollars scare me? I've been through hell, rich boy. I don't fear men like you." "You should," Ethan replied softly. Something in his tone made the intruder pause. But only for a second. "Tell Rosa to get out here," he snarled. "She owes me." "No," Ethan said calmly. "She doesn't." The man took a swing so sudden most people wouldn't have seen it. But Ethan wasn't most people. He caught the man's wrist mid-air, grip unyielding. The intruder's eyes widened as Ethan twisted his arm just enough to force him down to one knee. But not enough to break anything. "Yet." "Listen to me carefully," Ethan said quietly, his voice dripping with controlled fury. "You will not shout at her again. You will not touch her again. You will not come near this house again." The man struggled, snarling. "You can't tell me what to do. She's mine." "No," Ethan growled, tightening his hold until the man winced. "She stopped being yours the moment you raised a hand to her." The man's bravado cracked with a hiss of pain. Let go, damn you." Ethan leaned in, eyes cold. "You leave. Now, or the police will learn everything you've done. And trust me, your freedom won't survive that." For a moment, the man looked like he wanted to fight. But then, something in Ethan's expression shifted his entire stance. Fear. Real fear. He pulled back, grumbling curses as he stumbled away from the door. "This isn't over. I'll be back. She owes me." "You show up again," Ethan said quietly, "and you won't walk away." The man spat on the ground, then staggered down the driveway into the night. Ethan closed the door, locked it, then leaned his forehead against the wood for a moment, breathing deeply, grounding himself. He wasn't done. Not remotely. But when he turned around, Rosa was standing at the hallway corner, eyes wide, one hand pressed to her mouth. She must have cracked the guest room door open to listen. "You stood up to him," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "He's not coming back." Her shoulders shook. "He always comes back." "Not anymore," he said, stepping closer. "Not to you." Her voice trembled. "Why would you risk yourself for us?" He hesitated, not because he didn't know the answer, because it frightened him how deeply he meant it. "Because you've suffered enough," he said softly, "and because no one deserves to live afraid." A long silence hung between them. Rosa's eyes filled with tears again, but not the same kind as before. These were softer, disbelieving, grateful. She swallowed hard. "I don't know if I can forgive him for what he's done," she whispered. Ethan shook his head gently. "Forgiveness isn't something you owe him. But be honest with yourself. Could you ever forgive? If it meant finally letting go of the pain. Type forgive if you could. Or never if the wounds run too deep." Rosa lowered her gaze, thinking, breathing through years of bruised memories. Then she whispered, I just want peace. And Ethan realized. Peace was exactly what he intended to give her. Ethan guided Rosa back toward the guest room, each of his steps unsteady, as if the echo of that man's voice still clung to her ankles like chains. The hallway felt quieter now, but not calmer, more like the air was holding its breath. When Rosa slipped inside the room and saw Leah still fast asleep, curled beneath warm blankets, her hand flew to her heart again. She approached the bed slowly, brushing a gentle strand of hair away from her daughter's forehead. She sleeps deeper when she feels safe, Rosa whispered, sinking onto the edge of the mattress. Ethan leaned against the doorway, arms crossed loosely, watching mother and daughter like he'd stepped into a life he never knew he needed to see. Rosa's shoulders relaxed for the first time that night, as though the storm outside had passed just long enough for her to catch a breath. She hasn't slept this peacefully in months, Rosa added, her voice thick with emotion. Every noise scares her. Every night she worries I won't come home. Ethan exhaled slowly. He didn't want to imagine that kind of childhood, walking on eggshells, staying awake until sunrise, afraid of the very world meant to protect you. No child deserved that. Rosa, he said softly, you and Leah will stay here, in this wing, from now on. Her head jerked up. So, I can't take advantage. This isn't advantage, he said firmly. It's safety. She stared at him, torn between gratitude and fear. But people will talk. They'll think I'm taking something that isn't. Let them talk, Ethan interrupted calmly. People who judge are the ones who help the least. Rosa looked down at Leah again, brushing her fingers over her small knuckles. I just want her happy, she murmured. She deserves a childhood. Not this. Ethan nodded. And she'll have one. Starting tomorrow. Rosa blinked rapidly, fighting tears. How can you be so sure? Because I'm going to make sure of it. For a moment, she looked at him like she didn't believe anyone could mean something so deeply. But the sincerity in his eyes didn't waver. He couldn't remember the last time he'd felt this certain of anything. When she didn't respond, Ethan added gently, what Leah told me, about your husband, about the money, the nightclub. Rosa, none of that is your fault. Rosa shook her head painfully. I should have protected her better. You did, he said. You worked yourself to the bone so she had food, a roof, and you kept her alive. That's protection. That's love. Rosa pressed her lips together, trying not to cry again, but one tear escaped anyway. You're kinder than I expected, she whispered. Ethan managed a faint smile. Don't spread it around. I have a reputation. She let out a soft, watery laugh, the kind that slips from someone rediscovering what calm feels like. He stepped farther into the room, lowering his voice. Tomorrow, we'll sit down and talk through everything. Your safety, Leah's schooling, your hours, your pay, the police, if you want to involve them. Rosa stiffened. I'm scared of what he'll do if we report him. You won't face him alone, Ethan reassured her. I will stand with you, and I won't let him near you again. Her breath caught. That promise hit her hard enough that she had to steady herself with a hand on the mattress. She whispered, I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to. The room fell quiet again. Peaceful. Secure. Ethan moved toward the door to give them privacy, but Rosa called softly. So? He turned. Why? Why are you doing all this? Nobody helps us like this. Nobody sees us. Ethan hesitated. Just a breath, then answered honestly. Because I've spent years surrounded by people who pretend they need nothing. And tonight, for the first time in a long time, I saw someone who actually needed help. He met her gaze, steady and sincere, and I refused to look away. Something soft bloomed in Rosa's expression, hope, blooming like a fragile flower after years of drought. If you believe love still wins, he said quietly. Comment, amen. Let's fill this section with hope. Someone scrolling right now might need to see it. Rosa leaned down, pressing a kiss to Leah's forehead. She always tells me she wishes she could stay in a place where she doesn't feel scared, she whispered. Tonight might be the first night she gets that wish. Ethan watched them, the sight tugging something deep inside him, something he didn't expect. He cleared his throat gently. You should rest too. You're safe here. Rosa nodded, but before he could step out of the room, she rose slowly and stopped him with a quiet, trembling voice. Sir? Yes. Thank you, truly. He gave her a small, warm look. Good night, Rosa. When the door closed behind him, he leaned against the hallway wall, running a hand through his hair. His mind spun with everything that had unfolded, the fear, the truth, the bruised stories he'd never known, but one thought anchored itself more firmly than all the others. He wasn't letting this family go back to the life they were living. As he walked down the hallway, a soft shuffle sounded behind him. Leah, half asleep, rubbing her eyes, clutching a blanket around her small shoulders. Sir, she murmured. He turned instantly. Leah, you should be resting. She blinked up at him. I had a bad dream. He knelt down. You're safe now. Nothing's going to hurt you, hey. She nodded weakly, but her small voice cracked. Can I stay near Mom? Yes, he said with a gentle smile. Always. Leah hugged him without warning, tiny arms around his neck, warm and fragile. Ethan froze, then slowly hugged her back. And he felt it. Something shift inside his chest. Something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The quiet kind. The real kind. The kind that anchors you. He stood slowly after she returned to the room, exhaling shakily. Tomorrow would bring choices. Solutions. A plan. But tonight, he had already decided. He would change everything for them. Ethan barely slept. He tried, laying down in the dim quiet of his room, staring up at the ceiling. But his mind replayed every tremble in Leah's voice, every fear in Rosa's eyes, every thundering knock from the man who thought he owned them. By sunrise, the mansion glowed with soft golden light, spreading gently across the hallways like a promise. Ethan stepped out of his room just as Rosa emerged from the guest room, her hair tied back, exhaustion still etched into her face, but something else flickered there too. Hope. Fragile, cautious, but finally present. Good morning, Ethan said softly. She looked startled at first, then nodded. Good morning, sir. A faint rustle sounded, and Leah appeared behind her mother, hair messy, eyes puffy from sleep, but smiling when she saw him. Hi, she whispered shyly. Hi, Leah. Ethan smiled. Did you sleep okay? She glanced at the warm blankets behind her. It felt like sleeping in a cloud. Rosa ran her fingers through her daughter's hair, emotions softening her features. She didn't wake up all night. Ethan nodded. Good. He led them toward the dining room, where breakfast, real breakfast, was waiting. Warm toast, eggs, fruit, juice. Things Leah had only ever seen on TV or in school pamphlets. Leah's eyes widened. Sir, did you cook all this? No, he admitted with a chuckle. The chef came in early. She giggled softly, and Rosa murmured a thank you before they Saturday. Ethan waited until Leah was joyfully digging into strawberries before his tone deepened. We need to talk, he said gently to Rosa. Rosa froze, fear flickering instantly. It's not bad, he reassured. It's a plan. She exhaled shakily, shoulders dropping. He continued, voice steady. I looked into things last night. Legally. Financially. Your husband can't take money from you unless you give it willingly. And threatening you is a crime. Rosa's fingers tightened around her fork. He doesn't care about laws. No, Ethan agreed. But the law cares about you. She looked at him, uncertainty in her eyes. What if reporting him makes things worse? Ethan took a breath. Then I'll make sure it doesn't. I've arranged for security to monitor the property. They'll be here within the hour. Her eyes widened. Security. You're safe here, he repeated, for as long as you stay. And if you want to press charges, I will personally make sure he never comes near you again. Rosa swallowed, emotion filling her eyes. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything right now, Ethan told her. Just breathe. Leah finished her strawberries and looked up at Ethan. So, will I be able to go back to school today? He smiled gently. Yes, we'll get you there on time, with a clean uniform and a new backup one. Her mouth fell open slightly. A new one. Maybe two, he teased. Leah grinned, a real, bright grin that warmed the entire room. Rosa wiped her eyes again. I can't keep taking from you. You're not taking, Ethan said softly. I'm giving. There's a difference. She inhaled unsteadily, then whispered, Why us? Out of everyone you've met in your life, why help us this much? He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a mother who had fought alone for too long. A child who had grown up before her time. A family on the edge of breaking. His voice softened, because kindness shouldn't have borders. It shouldn't depend on wealth or titles. It should show up where it's needed most. Tears slipped down Rosa's cheeks. Quiet, grateful, humbled. Ethan reached over and placed a gentle hand on the table beside hers. You're not alone anymore, he said. Neither of you. Her breath hitched, and Leah leaned against her mother's side, hugging her arm. For a moment, they just sat there. Three people bound by a night of truth and fear and courage, now sitting in the soft glow of morning healing. Rosa whispered, I never thought someone would fight for us. Ethan replied, Then let me be the first. Leah looked up at both of them, eyes bright with hope. Does this mean we can stop being scared? Ethan nodded slowly. Yes, it means exactly that. Leah exhaled with relief and rested her head on her mother's shoulder. Rosa closed her eyes gently. This feels like the first day of our new life. Ethan smiled faintly. It is. And something in his chest warmed, a quiet, peaceful glow he hadn't felt in years. If this story moved you, don't scroll away silently. Tap like. Not for me, but for this mother and daughter who carried more pain than anyone should. One click is your way of saying, I felt you. I see you. Rosa wiped her cheeks again, breathing deeper now, steadier, as if the air finally felt safe to inhale. And Ethan, she whispered, meeting his eyes. Thank you for giving us back our hope. He shook his head gently. You never lost it. You just needed someone to guard it for a while. Leah looked up. Are you going to stay with us? Ethan smiled softly. As long as you need me. Outside, the morning sun broke fully through the windows, bathing the three of them in warmth, golden, calm, gentle. A new beginning, a safer beginning. And as the light filled the room, the moral unfolded quietly, like a whisper meant for anyone listening with a bruised heart. Sometimes the greatest wealth is not in what you own, but in how deeply you care for those who have nothing left to hold on to.